Hey everybody, Hunter, Fisher, Trapper, Trader, Guide, Scout, and Interpreter, and Country Cook Steve Hall here in Nashville, Tennessee, along with pretty Miss Sheila running that camera. Hi, Sheila.
Hi.
And look what I've got. A brand new KitchenAid mixer she bought me for our kitchen here. And I thought, what a perfect recipe to do with this Indian fry bread. Now let me give you a little background on this. Years ago I performed at Shawano, Wisconsin at Jerry's Country Sound. Donnie White was the lead singer, Joe Tucker, Paul Smith, and I played drums. And it was just south of the Indian reservation, so all the Menominee Indians would come down there, party, have a great time, dance, some of the nicest people in the world. And Byron Dixon, who was a logger, Native American logger up there with his whole crew, invited us up to their house. We went up there, they had trout that they caught out of the stream, they had chili, and they had this chunks of bread on this plate they were tearing apart, dunking in the chili. I said, what is that? They said, that's Indian fry bread. They keep those recipes close to their chest, they won't let it out, but I been doing a little snooping, and I kind of got to the bottom of all of this. Come on over here and I'll show you what we're going to make. Some Indian fry bread. Now almost all those gals that make fry bread on the res, they mix it by hand. But I'm going to use this mixer because a couple of them said I could do that. In here we have flour. 3 cups of flour. 2 cups here and 1 cup here. And you'll notice this is just a coffee cup because that's the way they did it in the old days. They never had any measuring cups on the res. They just took a coffee cup out of the counter, scooped up 3 cups of flour, dumped it in a bowl, and the important thing, even though I'm talking about the Menominee Indian Reservation, the Indians, the Navajo Indians out west, they love to use bluebird flour. And it's hard to find here. In fact, I couldn't find it, but you can also get by with just regular bread flour. So that's what we have in here. 3 kitchen coffee cups out of the kitchen of bread flour. Then we're going to add a little bit of salt. Now all those girls will say is they just put a little salt in the palm of their hand. So that's exactly what I'm doing, and I measured that earlier. That's a half a teaspoon of salt, or as they say, a little salt in the palm of their hand. They also put in 2 teaspoons of baking powder, but they just use a regular teaspoon out of the kitchen drawer because that's the way they do it on the res. And they said kind of have them not heaping but domed a little bit. So there's 2 teaspoons with a teaspoon out of the drawer of baking powder. Then they also use a couple of hands full of dry milk. So that's just powdered milk that we're putting in there. Now, they mix it all up, and then they make a little well in the bottom of a standard bowl, and they kind of make a well, and they pour the water in the middle, and they start working the dough. But I'm going to cheat. I'm going to use this handy dandy little dough hook here. Put my brand new mixer in, and I'm just going to put it on stir. Let it stir for about a minute. And we'll be right back with you. Now that's been mixing for about a minute or so, and now we're going to slowly put in about 1.5 cups of warm water. Real slow, and we're going to let the dough hook do its thing here and start gathering it up. And as it mixes, it'll start pulling the flour in from the side and making it join the party, so to speak. Believe it or not, this is the first adventure with my brand new KitchenAid mixer that Sheila got me. And you want to have it so it's a little bit sticky but not too bad, and then we can add a little flour, a half a handful at a time if we need to. Now this is set on the lowest setting of just stir. Now all you girls out there that are watching this on the res, don't be mad at me because a gal said I could do it this way. Put a little bit more water in there because it's fighting along pretty good. That looks really nice right there. It's getting good. Now, when you get it to that tacky state like that, they said you can add just a little bit of flour if you need to. So we're going to do exactly that. Just a pinch at a time. There we go. Now it's making a real nice dough ball. See that, Sheila? That's awesome. And that is about perfect. Maybe just a smidgen more of flour. Not much, just a little bit. Now it's really cleaned the sides off nice, and it's kneading it. It's doing what those girls do by hand, and they do a wonderful job of it. But I'm not gonna, because I got this KitchenAid, and a couple of gals over there on the res said I could do that because they do the same thing. And we're going to let this mix for about 3 to 5 minutes, and we'll be right back. All right. It's been doing its thing for about 4 minutes here. And that dough feels really nice and soft on there. And they said it would. Let me go ahead and pull this off of here. Beautiful thing. Let me get this hook out of the way. Those girls told me if I rub just a little bit of cooking oil on my hands that this dough won't stick to my fingers, and they are absolutely right. Look how nice and soft this is. And what we're going to do is we're going to transfer this to a bowl. Am I back in frame there, Sheila?
Go back towards you a little bit.
Right there? Does that look good?
Yeah.
Okay. And we're going to cover this up, and we're just going to let it sit for about 15 minutes. And then we'll be right back to make it into little teeny balls and put in our hot oil. And there's a specialty to that oil too. I'll tell you about it in just a little bit. We'll see you in about 15 minutes. All right, she's rolling up to about 325 degrees, and we got about 1.5 to 2 inches of Morrell Snow Cap Lard, and that is the lard that they like to use. Them pretty gals on the res, they're real specific about stuff. Bluebird flour, I couldn't find any, but they said I could use regular bread flour, and Morrell lard. So that's what we got in here. It's coming up on close to 350, so let me get my little dough ball over here. I'm going to get just a little bit of flour to sprinkle around and kind of mess with just a little bit so it don't stick too bad to my little pad here. And this is really looking nice. And what you do is you just pull off little pieces. Now, these girls, they make it into a nice little ball, roll it into the bottom like that, and then they let them set for another 5 minutes. So we're going to do exactly that. We're going to make these into a little ball. Now they make bigger ones because they make theirs almost as big as the whole frying pan. But I'm not going to do that because the girls up there at the res on the Menominee Inn reservation, they had almost like kind of odd shaped, triangle shaped chunks of fry bread. Unless they cut the dough after they made it, I don't know. But we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. These have been resting for about 5 minutes. Our oil is ready for us. Not oil, but lard. And what they do is they start to make these into a little flat by going around like this. And those gals are really good because they, I can't do it, but they flop it back and forth almost like making a pizza dough. And I wish I could do it like they do it, but I can't. So I'm just going to have to mash it out fine. And you can also roll it out with a rolling pin if you want, but they get it stretched out here, good size like this. Then they tear a little hole in the middle and lay it into their oil. How am I doing, girls? I hope I'm doing all right. Indian fry bread, you're going to love this stuff. And you want to pay close attention because it doesn't take long. Once you get this stretched out here, I don't do the little flip-flop back and forth. I know they're laughing at me right now, Sheila. But it's got to be what it's got to be. Tear my little hole in the middle, lay it in there. And these don't take very long at all. That's getting real close. But now they make a great big one, big cast iron pan, which I'm not using a cast iron pan. But they make theirs great big to where they fill almost the entire pan. Voila. Looking good. The other one's going to take a couple more seconds. I'm going to get some paper towels here real quick to lay these on. Not quite. This one's getting close. And they use a little fork too that they poke in case it gets big bubbles in it. They pour, you know, I'll tell you, they have competitions out west there. The Navajo Indians do, and in fry bread competitions. And everybody has their own recipe. And when I worked on the road for years, there we go. There's my first fry bread ever. And that one's ready to turn. And this one's ready to go in here. But when I travel up and down the road, there'll always be a couple of gals that come up and talk to me after the show, and if I notice that they're Native American, I'll say, "You know how to make fry bread, don't you?" "Oh yeah." And I said, "Well, how do you make it?" "Well, you know, it's a little flour and a little salt. Some use milk, some put sugar in their dough. You can do that too to make it kind of sweet if you want. Some don't use any sugar at all. But this stuff here is really fun to work with, you know, in its own way. Tear a little hole in the middle. I'm telling you how those girls told me to do it. It's almost like an elephant ear at the fair or something, but it's not. Let me cook a few of these and I'll be back with you. Here is the very last one out of the pan. How did I do, girls, with my Indian fry bread? And I got to do something right now because I already tore off a piece of this. This is crunchy on the outside. It's soft like bread on the inside. I got a little bowl of chili here because I want to kind of recreate that taste that I had up there with Viren Dixon and all the wonderful ladies up there on the Menominee Indian Reservation north of Shawano, Wisconsin. Let me give this a taste. Wow. You know, I couldn't find a big old bag of bluebird flour like you lovely ladies use on the res, so I had to use bread flour. But I did use a regular coffee cup out of the kitchen cupboard. I went in the drawer in the kitchen, got just a regular old teaspoon and used that for my baking powder. Shot a little salt in the palm of my hand, and I especially used Morrell Snow Cap whatever it says on their lard to cook it in. And I couldn't be happier. I made a mess. I got flour all over me. I used Sheila's little mixer because a couple ladies said I could do that. And it turned out great. It really kneaded it nice. It was soft. It tore off and it fried up just exactly like those ladies up on the Menominee Indian Reservation did north of Shawano, Wisconsin, and made that bowl of chili, that trout, and that fry bread. The first time I ever ate it, I thought one of these days I'm going to cook that on a country show. Took me 25 years to get it done, but here it is, Indian fry bread. If you're ever lucky enough to have some people invite you onto the res, cook you up a bowl of chili, have those pretty ladies make you some fry bread, don't turn the invitation down because it's absolutely delicious. By the way, we hope you subscribe to our channel. Little Shotgun Red's face should pop up over here if it hasn't already. We'll put another recipe over here for you, and we really hope that you enjoy these recipes here on Cooking with Shotgun Red. And is this the best Indian fry bread anywhere in the country? Probably not, but if it ain't, it ought to be. This is Steve and Sheila. Thanks for the mixer, Sheila.
You're welcome.
See you next time right here on Cooking with Shotgun Red. Bye-bye.